not said this in a public platform till now, but nobody who has ever taken the order, like accepted the order, returned it
Yeah.
till now.
Wow. At Ayra,
Yeah.
they
So
haven't returned it.
women are using their husbands' profiles, Facebook profiles, because they don't want to put themselves out there, right? So they are probably using their husband's profiles and giving their husband number, address, and
Ah,
everything. So that could also be, it could have been either of these two reasons. But yeah, removing men from the targeting is not a solution. So that's the other thing. You have to run so many experiments constantly, and then like something works, and then it works for a month, and then it suddenly doesn't work anymore, and then you have to tweak something else. So the amount of experiments that you conduct on a regular basis is insane.
hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Saurabh Pol. Welcome to Pol Ke Pol. Today I have with me a good friend of mine, Teja Gosangi. Teja is the founder at Ayra. She's a 2017 batch MBA from FMS Delhi. She's worked in multi-billion dollar IT companies. She's worked in B2B SaaS companies. Now she has her own D2C apparel brand. She's worked across strategy, partnerships, and marketing. Teja, I'm so happy you are here. Welcome to Pol Ke Pol. How are you?
Happy to meet you after so long, Paul. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. As you can see, I've gotten into the YouTube game. I've taken it a bit more seriously because I think one has to do much more than just playing video games after work, right? So I thought
Yeah.
I might as well, bring upon my friends who are doing better than me and ask them how are they doing and what are they doing.
I think better is a stretch, but I think we are playing two different games in that sense. You're playing on YouTube and I'm trying to play on Instagram. So yeah, it is tough. I've never realized how tough content creation is until I've started doing it myself. I'm like, oh, okay, there is so much that goes on behind the scenes.
Actually,
Yeah.
like what comes outside, what comes on screen is only 10-20%. What goes on behind is 70 to 80%. That's quite a bit. So Teja, let me start with the basic question, right? Like which I actually had in mind. Like you have done so many things, right? Like as I mentioned, strategy, partnerships, marketing. You went from multi-billion dollar companies to SaaS companies, which are much more lean, and although you have been in tech, but now you are like, you know what, I'm going to start my own clothing brand. I'm going to start my own, and it's Ayra is a sari brand, correct? And you started on your own, and I really wanted to understand, why did you start it? What made you feel that, what, entrepreneurship is for me now?
I even now it doesn't feel like it is for me, but I think it just happened very naturally. So I wanted to take a, like, I've worked for like good 6.5 years by the time I uh, got out of my corporate job. I just wanted a few months to do nothing, chill, vacation, and go for surfing camp and things like that. But which I've done for a couple of months, and third month you're like, yeah, you, that itch of I need to do something starts. So then
Yeah.
I was actually looking for jobs across where I can use marketing and partnerships, right? I did find some good roles, but my heart was not in it. Like the way I prepare for the interviews, or the amount of effort that I put on usually is not something that I've put at the time. And then I realized that if my heart is not in it, I just don't know what I'm doing. So I just stopped looking after that. And then eventually I think I had a few more ideas, and like because I have a cat, so I was like, I initially thought I'll go into the pet food or pet services space. And then eventually I ended up with a clothing brand because I had certain limitations with me. One is I don't have that much capital. Everything that I have put in Ira is basically the savings that I've earned over the past few years. So there is a certain limit on it, right? It's not an infinite bank account. So I did not want to
Yeah.
get into a super capital intensive business at the start. Like once I know it's working and then I want to take it or grow it as a business, then I'll figure out how to get the investment either from friends, family, or investors and such. But initially I wanted something that I wanted to test the waters, figure out what's working. And that's the other thing. You will think this thing will work and it will not. You will think so. There's so many assumptions that we make, and we are so wrong so many times. So yeah, and I think when I started for the idea of a clothing brand, I spoke to people within the clothing business. I spoke to 10 to 20 folks within the business as to what are the margins like, how do you source, what do you do for marketing, how do you do the packaging. Like, I have talked to anybody and everybody within the industry that I could reach out to before I even started working on this.
Yeah.
And from them, I got a lot of insights as to what could be the challenges going forward, right? And a lot of them have happened to me. Some of them I could mitigate because of the conversations that I've had. And then the sari thing was a very natural process that happened. The day I decided, okay, let me look into the sari thing, I was genuinely researching without even thinking, hey, I have to do this and this, right? It
Yeah.
was happening so organically that it didn't even feel like work for me. So I was like, if I'm going to spend a big chunk of my life investing into something, then I should probably do something that doesn't feel like work necessarily. So, like, as
Yeah.
such, I have been wearing saris quite a lot over the last few years before this idea even came up, right? So, yeah, and then I did a lot of research, went to different places just to figure out what saris are there, what are the fabrics, what are the designs, what are the prints. So,
Market research, mystery shopping.
I was shopping for samples everywhere. Like across South India, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I started. My first part was in Bangalore, Chickpet.
Okay.
So it's like a very old clothing market, and you will literally get anything and everything there. That's why, and that's not a place you can go by car or something. You literally have to walk for however long you can.
Is
So
it?
yeah. It's like cabs are not allowed, autos are not allowed inside. That entire area, people transfer goods by hand pulled carts.
Oh,
The lanes
okay.
are so narrow that if one auto goes, there's people cannot come from the other side. So,
Got it.
like, yeah, a lot of field work I did, both within Bangalore and like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. Like, I've gone to different places and figured out. Yeah, I know.
That's incredible because you know what, when you say all this, it reminds me that all those textbooks we learned, the things that mentioned were mentioned in those MBA textbooks we had, right? Oh, go do mystery shopping, do primary research, do secondary research, and this and that. So
Yeah.
you actually implemented it.
It's not like that in a way. Matlab, I understand, like, now we can look back at it and compare that, okay, this was a theory, this was a practical. It was not the case, to be honest. I just wanted to know what I'm selling. So I have gone and I've
Got it.
purchased sample pieces from each of these places. I wore them myself and then I washed them to see how much color it leaves, and then how does it look after the first wash, how does it look after the second wash. So I need to know what I'm selling. I can't be selling things that I don't know how they look like after, right? So is it
Yeah.
so a lot of that work has been done on the product, which is why I don't know, I have not said this in a public platform till now, but nobody who has ever taken the order, like accepted the order, returned it
Yeah.
till now.
Wow. At Ayra,
Yeah,
they
so
haven't returned it. Or is
nobody
it
asked
because
for
you
a return
stopped
also.
taking calls?
Nobody asked for a return also. And but yeah, COD things, if they don't accept the order in the first place, those we got back.
Yeah,
But
that's different. Yeah.
nobody who has accepted the order has never asked for a return till now. So that is how confident I am about the product.
Wow, that's incredible because I've never heard about this before, right? Like people
Yeah.
aren't giving, like, returns are a good percentage of like every e-commerce platform, right? So to reiterate, you sell it D2C, right? Direct to consumer.
Yes.
You do it
Yeah.
online. You don't have any offline stores.
No, we do
Okay,
it
why not?
online.
Like, of course, it's capital intensive. I get it.
Yeah.
That's one
One is
reason.
capital intensive, but again, remember I told we make a lot of assumptions and they go wrong. really
Okay.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Tell
the
me.
other assumption that I've made was I am putting together this collection for people like me who
Yeah.
are from a tier one or tier two cities, who are urban women, and like our price point is also between 1800 and 3600, which basically
Got it.
means it's slightly on the higher end, especially for
Yeah.
a casual wear brand, something that you can wear for your daily or office wear sort of thing. It's slightly on the higher end.
Yeah.
So my assumption was that people like me would be the people purchasing it. Within
Yeah.
a month, I got to know how wrong I was because most of my
Okay.
customers are from tier two cities, tier three cities.
Oh, wow, because that's expensive. Like your price point is not low. I know it because I
Yeah,
got married a few years ago, and now I unfortunately know the prices of saris, right? So
yeah.
I know what you're selling is not exactly cheap. So how is that? Does that happen? Tier two and tier
So
three. Even
I
I didn't expect.
think, again, a part of this is my hypothesis slash assumption based on the data I have right now. But again, we are selling most of the saris that we are selling are either in the southern states, Maharashtra, and West
Yeah,
Bengal.
got it.
Rest of the northern part of India or even central India, it is far and few in between. So there's
Got it.
basically these 6, 7 states that are that contribute to most of my sales right now. And I think for an urban woman, you have a lot of variety available to you either when you go to stores or when you see
Mhm.
online. But
Got it.
discoverability is something that we offer for the tier 2, tier 3 cities where, like, see, saris are also one of those products you don't want to be wearing the same sari as the next person to you. You
Yeah,
want to look like, at least, even if it's the same fabric and everything, you still want to look different from the
yeah. You
person
want to
next.
stand out.
Yes. So discoverability is something that we offer for the tier 2 and tier 3 markets, which a tier 1 person will be like, hey, this is something that I can get anywhere and everywhere sort of thing. So yeah, but that was mind blowing for me, and they have far more appetite than we think they have. I have gotten, like, they
Interesting.
place, like, we have gotten pretty good reorders as well, right? So the first sari, so the reason I've put the starting price point as 1800 is basically so that people will, because it's a new brand, I want people to have the ability to test it out and see, hey, is this something that we want? The first time they order, it'll be the basic entrance sarees, which
Basic
is
one.
like
Yeah,
1799. The second time they order two or three, and big ones like upwards of 3K, right?
yeah,
Each.
yeah,
So the appetite for consumption is very high in tier 2, tier 3 markets, which is something we don't expect, or we assume it's very less because of their whatever reasons, right? But
yeah.
yeah, so many assumptions have gone wrong.
This is incredible. But my question is like, okay, like how do they discover you? Because you went out thinking, hey, I'm gonna target basically
So
different versions of Teja. Like you are like, hey, this is me.
yes,
This is an urban, like this is what I also started out, right? Like with my content. So I was like, ah, other Saurabhs will also be there. But
yeah,
turns out like very you get you put things out there and someone else ends up liking it. So you're ICP, which is your ideal customer profile, it suddenly shifts, right? Or at
yeah,
least there is another ICP that is added to you. So how
yeah.
do they discover you exactly? How does anyone
So
discover Ayra?
one is obviously we run a lot of ads, but again, this is something that some of my friends who are founders have told me: make no assumptions. Make no assumptions about anything. Even if you make an assumption, just assume that you will be wrong about it. So when I started out ads, so initially the first campaign that I ran again for like cities and women between 25 to 40, basically my profile in a way,
Yeah,
right? And then one day it was, I think it was working okay, but I was like, let's actually open it up and see what happens. So that's the other thing. You have to run so many experiments constantly, and then, like, something works and then it works for a month, and then it suddenly doesn't work anymore, and then you have to tweak something else. So the amount of experiments that you conduct on a regular basis is insane. So yeah, once I opened it up, I'm like, let's not make any assumptions. So in the household that I grew up in, like my aunts and uncles and everybody, right? None of my uncles will ever buy a sari for my aunt. They will probably give the money to buy, or
Yeah.
they my aunt will buy for herself. They will never buy for the wife because they're like, we don't know what they like, why mess with something, sort of thing, right? So that is the kind of assumption I went with when I targeted only women. But no.
Wow. Okay.
So this again, this could be two cases. One is the men are purchasing saris for women in tier 2, tier 3 cities. The second thing is, or the women are using their husbands' profiles, Facebook profiles, because they don't want to put themselves out there, right? So they are probably using their husband's profiles and giving their husband number, address, and
Ah.
everything. So that could also be, it could have been either of these two reasons. But yeah, removing men from the targeting is not a solution. Either
Wow.
of these scenarios.
This just blew my mind. The second point blew my mind. Like this, nobody is going to teach you, anywhere. This is like real experience. Life teaches you this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation. But
Because
for the sake of our audience, I'll let you continue. But for the sake of our audience, just let me know like what platforms are you advertising on? Like when you said ads, assuming
yeah.
digital ads, and what platforms exactly?
So right now, we have our own website that we are selling through, and
Yeah.
organic traffic is very little. Again, it's a very new brand in the market. Organic is very new. So ads, it's mostly on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
And
Instagram
I
and Facebook.
have
Meta.
tested out, like I have tested out with Google Ads as well. But at this point, it is not something that I want to focus my efforts on, because it takes a little while to reach the audience, and also saris are very visual products.
Yeah.
So Instagram slash Facebook makes a far better platform for me. But if I were advertising for a, products that are not necessarily visual, right? Like if you're advertising for a laptop or just a cream or things like that, maybe I would go for Google Ads. But I think
Yeah.
I need the images of these saris to get the word out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So yeah, it's just Instagram and Facebook right now.
makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. And what kind of, if you can reveal, like, what kind of conversion rates do you see over there? Like, which ones? Because from what I understand, because in my experience, right, from my marketing experience, all the campaigns that I ran, Meta became suddenly very expensive, like
It
three,
is
4 years
very
ago.
expensive. Yes.
Yeah. So good. The experience matches. So, but still, even if it is expensive, as long as it does its job for you, I think it
Yeah.
works, right? So conversion rates and all, if you want to talk cost per lead, like, and cost per acquisition, is there anything that you want to share if you want to?
No, the numbers have been very inconsistent across the months, because I'll tell you why. Because this is very seasonal, also, in a way. So, like
Okay.
October, Dashara season, the sales were insane. December again was more or less flat because New Year's is not necessarily a good month for
For
saris.
sarees,
Yeah. So August, September, October were like
festival
spectacular.
season.
And then, yeah, festival season, right? And then it has gone down, and then January was okay. So it is very irregular in that sense. There are a lot of factors that are involved. So cost per lead, let's say in September, is very different from cost per lead in December. So yeah, the numbers are all over the place, not as good as I expected. But typically in this industry, like in apparel, for the people, based on the conversations I've had, you will have like between 900 to 1000 is a good cost per acquisition.
Oh, wow. So your ticket size needs to be that high.
Exactly.
That's to
Now you
break
know why
even
I've priced
ultimately.
it. Yeah, now you know why I've priced it between 2K and 4K.
That's tough.
So
That's tough.
yeah, it's a
Wow.
very tough and also a extremely competitive business, especially women's apparel. And there are the ones I don't know, like if you're getting my ads, then I'm sure you're getting
True.
ads for other sari brands also. Once you
Yeah.
like one ad, then you'll realize how many other brands there are. Like I've done my
True.
market research before I entered, but yeah, once I started ads, that's when I realized, oh damn, I have to compete with XYZ and 20,000 brands basically. So yeah, it is very expensive platform, and it takes time to learn all of these algorithms, right? They will have to learn
Yeah.
the kind of customers that are actually converting. And then I've had more challenges, specifically with COD and fraud orders and all of that. So that was also another problem. So what how meta ads work is, if let's say Saurabh buys a sari, the algorithm will go and try to find more people like Saurabh who
Yeah.
matches your profile and stuff like that. So when a person X orders a fraud order, which means they have no intention of buying it. They will put random phone number, random address, right?
Mm.
They are just messing with the algorithm. That's it. So once one person places a fraud order, you will get 20 more fraud orders because the algorithm is learning that.
Oh. Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so we had to remove COD as an option altogether. So now I've
Yeah.
put a partial COD where like you have to pay at least 200 rupees to place the order. So now I know all orders that are coming in are real.
A
So
genuine.
that was another problem. So there's like this problem was not there in first 2 months, and then third month this fraud problem started, and then you have to fix it fast. Otherwise, the algorithm will go in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah,
So you
that's true. You
can,
have to rein it in very quickly because the
yeah,
algorithm is like a child, right? It will keep
yeah.
learning, and whatever you teach it or feed it, it will be like, "Ha, yahi dunya hai," and they'll it gets reinforced again and again and
Yeah.
again. From what I understand, at least.
So, and then at that time, I did not have the option for partial COD. Like, you need more applications and stuff for that, right? So, I put only prepaid.
Got it.
So, only prepaid, the problem is the growth will be slow because obviously people don't know the brand. They have never heard about it. So, partial
Yeah.
COD is a good bet where they feel like, okay, 200 rupees they're asking. So, they will send the product. So, I'm just asking for what covers my shipping charges. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So that's another problem. The number of things I've learned over the last year are mind
Incredible.
blowing.
No, this is like back again being in a group discussion during our MBA days because that was
Yeah,
probably one of the last times, we actually had these kind of conversations, right? So
but
it's incredible.
this is not a problem you face in tech world, right? We have never heard about fraud orders. It's not a thing. This is something once you enter
Different world.
B2C, yeah, B2C are like, oh, this also happens.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like there's so many things that you learn constantly. So one problem you figure out and then you put out that fire and then something else is already burning and needs your attention. So
You have to wear multiple hats, I'm pretty sure. Which takes me to my next question, right? What is the structure of Ayra? Like, are you the only one? Do you have
it's just
employees?
me.
Do you have partners? Do you have co-founders? How does this work?
It's just me for now. But I have had help from a lot of friends for a lot of things. So all the pictures that you see on the website or on
Yeah.
the socials, all of them are my friends, me and my friends basically. So I didn't
Okay.
want to hire models. I mean, reason number one, because I didn't have the money. Reason number two, I also want to make a brand for people like me or very faces that are relatable, right? I don't want it to
Yeah.
be, this is not high fashion. This is meant
Got
for
it.
everyday wear sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
You can
my
see my
friends,
screen?
yes,
Yeah. So this is your website.
yeah, yes.
Go on, go on. Just keep
So
talking. I'll keep scrolling
all
so
of
that
them
people get an
are
idea.
all of them are my friends. And for the website, I have not done tech much before. This is something I created entirely by myself, which I'm still mind blown about. But I've had
Wow.
help on the tech front from some of my friends for the integrations, or even a few things I could not fix. Like, I have limited skills when it comes to tech, though I took help from friends for that. So yeah, there's like so many people that have helped me. It's insane. I
And
could have, I have always been this sort of hyper independent person where, like, when you're doing a corporate job, you just do your job. It's not, although it is dependent on somebody, they are supposed to be doing their job, right? So end of
yeah,
the day, you are not asking favors from people, you're just asking them to do their job. But once you
yeah.
get into this, you're asking for favors everywhere. Like, every woman I meet, I'm like, can you please model for me? Only if you're comfortable.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, you have to ask. And a lot of people, so I've never asked for this much help in my entire life.
Mhm.
And I assume people wouldn't help that much. But no, I was wrong again. Like, every single person I asked for help either helped me directly, or told me who can help with this specific problem I reached out to.
Yeah.
So it is insane the amount of help you'll need. But that's one advice I'll give to anybody and to myself: don't start anything by yourself. Please get a co founder.
Oh wow. Okay, this is interesting. Get a co-founder. That's your advice now. Why?
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
only that having an extra hand is also some sort of moral support and different viewpoints and better strategy? What is it?
Okay, so this is something. So I have, like, while I was working in corporate, right, I've attended a bunch of startup events, and a lot of the founders used to say it's a very lonely journey. I was like, but every journey is lonely journey. What are these people saying? Like, it didn't make much sense in my head. Now that I'm here, I know what they mean, and they were not kidding. So what happens is, at least in my case, right, I have had to wear multiple hats in the same day. Morning, I'll be sitting in my room and packing and sending out the shipments, and then I'll look at the campaigns, how they're performing, and then if I need to tweak something, I'll make those tweaks. And then afternoon, I'm shooting content, because Instagram is again that baby that you need to feed constantly, otherwise the reach
Yeah.
goes down, and it's a whole cycle all over, right? So you have to post content constantly. So, and then in the evening again, I'm checking on the campaigns, and then I'm looking if everything is working well. So it is exhausting. But I think the other reason that you need a co-founder is, sometimes you just, like, I am an overthinker. Sometimes you just go into this direction and make up imaginary problems while you have real problems to deal with. So I think
Yeah.
having a co-founder, or even a team member, right, somebody you hire, that can help you with some sense of reality check, that is very much required. And there are days when it just doesn't go, like, for a whole week, you will, nothing goes your way, and then you're suddenly very depressed and you lose all motivation to work. But you have to work, you don't have a choice. So that having a co-founder will basically help you. If you are down, the other person can pick you up or pick up the work, sort of thing. So I think it is really important. And because a lot of work I've done myself, I don't think I have been an extremely social person ever in my life. I've been somewhere in between. I'm not very
Yeah.
social, I'm not antisocial. Like, I have social batteries and I know where to spend, and that's pretty much it. But I've never missed working with people. I never assumed I'll miss working with people as much as I did, because you're just constantly working and sometimes you lose your mind. So I think it helps to have at least one co-founder or a team member to
Yeah.
give you that sense of reality check and prioritize things.
Wow. This is such a beautiful answer because I do know other people also who are entrepreneurs, and this is a very common thing. They say it's very lonely. It's lonely because
And
you are not
it's
even sure half the time whatever you're doing is correct or not. So you have to take a punt on
exactly.
yourself.
Exactly. And I remember, like, and it consumes you totally. There were days when I had some time for myself, but I don't have the mental bandwidth for anything else in life. So you're constantly consumed by it. You wake up in the morning, you're like, hey, how are the sales today? And then you open your laptop and check the ads or orders, new orders, what's the scene. So like you just don't get a break at all mentally, even physically. Like I went to some events just to chill, party with some friends, but your mind is always there. Like whenever somebody asks me, what do you want in life? I'm like, I want sales. Give me sales.
Numbers,
So
give me numbers.
that's absolutely.
My
So
God.
yeah, it just
Yeah,
consumes you in a way that nothing else does.
that's true. You think it's the opposite of the demotivation problem most of us face once in a while when we are working as employees. Where you are like, "Ki, yaar, I just don't feel like it, like, or things are not going my way. I don't feel like working on this project, or this profile is not that great."
But that's the thing.
But
You do that, but somebody somewhere will be like, hey, I need this data, give it to me. And then you're like, damn, I have to go and do this now. So somebody
yeah,
will pull you out of it, like without you knowing it. And then you get into it, and
yeah,
I'm like, okay, you know what? This is good. So let me, now that I have worked this much, let me work on this other thing that is also pending. But somebody is
yeah,
there to pull you out of it, either forcefully or
yeah,
like your manager will pull you out of this. You and I know.
yeah,
Whenever we have been like slightly slacking, we were like, excuse me,
yeah.
you're not up to the mark, please
I
up
know,
your
I know,
game.
I know. So
So,
yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but Teja and I were not only colleagues, but we were teammates. And we, I mean, yeah, we were teammates, we were batchmates when we joined the company together. So, it's incredible how far you have come, Teja. And one question I will ask based on that, right,
mhm.
is that you have worked in very large companies, right? As I mentioned, like, so have I. But we have also worked in very small companies also. And now, though, you're a single, you're an entrepreneur, a singlepreneur, as some people call it, right? Which I think you are alluding to. So,
Yeah.
did you learn something from the experience you had in these big corporations or these fast scaling B2B SaaS companies? Was it something that you learned from there, which is still helping you?
Anything, I think after having a good amount of years of work experience, I think there's no skill better than getting things done. Literally, there's nothing better than getting things done. Like I went from, okay, I will start a sari brand to launching my website within 3 months. So I've done the research I was talking about for product. I've gotten through the
Yeah,
paperwork required. You have to get GST, you have to get a virtual office, you have to get a lot of paperwork things in place. And then I got the inventory, I got the photo shoot done, I got the website done. So all of this happened within 3 months for somebody who
yeah,
never did any of those things ever. So I think getting things done is like
is
that is one thing, nothing beats it. Everything else, right? Your knowledge, all of these things you can learn. Like if you and I think, let's say we want to learn XYZ thing, right? We put
mhm.
in a good 2 weeks, we'll get a sense of it. A good month, we'll crack it. Like
Yeah.
again, both of us are fairly fast learners. So knowledge is something that you can acquire, but I think getting things done is far more important than anything else.
Yeah. And when the rubber meets the road, all that matters are the results. Have you executed it? And have you achieved what you wanted to achieve? Right? Like keeping it very
Yeah,
binary. Did you do it or did you not do it? Did it get done or not? That's it. Success or failure.
yeah,
Ultimately,
yeah.
it's that,
So
right?
even if it fails, right? So this is something somebody told me who was working in research field. So if you start with the hypothesis and then it failed, the experiment failed and you didn't get what you want, it basically means out of all the 100,000 possible options, that one thing is eliminated. So you can focus on the next. So you understand, even if you fail, you're like, okay, like let's say, let's talk about ads, right? This particular ad did not work. I'm like, okay, now do we change the content? Do we change the copy? Do we change the visuals for this? So you're like, okay, this is not working. So let me tweak one thing at a time and see what is working. So you are still moving towards something, like even if that particular initiative or particular idea fail, you're still moving towards something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So nothing goes to waste is what you are saying. And just like get shit done no matter what. Like just get shit done. No excuses, no nothing.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
you
yeah.
have knowledge, good you're enjoying it. But whether you are having a good day or a bad day, you just have to execute and you have to get things done because there's no one coming to save you because
Yeah.
you're a solopreneur. That's the word, not singlepreneur, solopreneur. And while it may feel lonely, doesn't it also motivate you? Because what I was trying to say is when people usually complain, I don't feel like working. But once they have their own business, they're like,
You don't have
boss,
a
I have to get
choice.
this done.
You don't have a
Oh, you
choice
don't.
because like again, like I said in my case, right? I have limited money, which basically means I have limited runway.
Yeah.
So if I don't work today, if I push it for tomorrow, and if it doesn't work, I'm just like reducing my runway by one more day.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. That's an
So
incredible way
yeah,
to look at
that's
it. I
basically
didn't
it.
think
You're
of it.
reducing your runway by one day. Like if you're delaying it, like I know again, you can't do everything. There are things you have to sometimes delay because there's something else that you have to do firefighting for. But
Yeah.
you still have to do the next thing as soon as possible. Otherwise, your runway is going to be shorter and shorter.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that is the realist pressure out there, right? That is
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
realist
End of the
pressure
day,
out
you
there.
have money, you see the money in your account going down, and then you're like, okay, now I have to sell my investments. Now I have to sell this. Like, you literally have that financial pressure that you don't have when you're in corporate.
Wow. Wow. I had one question, right? This is incredible. Of course, the pressure is real, but what made you think sari brand and you're like, how will you make it? Like, who makes this? Like, where does the manufacturing happen? Like, I'm not asking for business secrets, but
Uh-huh.
just like, okay, have you can say I've outsourced it or something like that, right?
So
But
I
it's
have,
in, like, how does it work?
yeah, like I have different suppliers. Like I said, I have traveled through places, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I would like for myself, and this is the fabric I
Right.
like. I like the colors, I like the design. After testing and all of this was done, I picked a few suppliers. There's multiple, it's not from one place that I'm sourcing
Yeah.
it. But yeah, you put together. So at this point, me and brand both have the same identity in a way,
Yeah.
right? In the very early stages, founder is the brand basically. So I
Right.
have to do things that feel right to me. I've been told to do things like again by friends and well wishers basically, right? You should probably uh, put it this way, that way. Some suggestions I have taken, but some of it didn't feel true to the brand identity. So I'm like the colors I've put or the logo and the text that I've put, a lot of these things, right? They all form a cohesive brand identity in a way, at least in my head it does. So yeah, it has to make sense for you.
That's so true, because you are pouring in your thoughts and your identity into your product, because you're
Yeah,
like, I can only make something which I would want to buy. I will never put
exactly.
out something which I don't want to buy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
So
the way
that's
you
one of
look
the
at it.
reasons I've
I
chosen the
believe.
fabrics also, right? Silk is something that I do not know enough about right now to make that decision. Oh, this is a good silk, this is not a good silk. But cottons, khadis, and
Yeah.
things, I'm like, okay, I love this and I like how it feels.
Yeah.
So I will never sell a product that I myself am not comfortable with.
Yeah. So you are the QC, you are the quality checker.
Yes,
You're like, "Ki, bro, ye mere ko nahi pasand, this is not going ahead." As simple as
this
that.
is not absolutely.
Wow, this is brilliant, one question I would ask is why not go also offline? What are the challenges of probably selling it at some retail outlet or something of that sort?
So offline is an entirely different business. So the reason I went online is because I wanted something scalable, right?
Yeah,
So today, let's say I'm selling 10 saris per day,
yeah,
but if tomorrow I get orders for 100 saris, I can still manage that with online. Obviously, the supply chain will have to adapt to the new demand.
Adapt to it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in terms of managing it, it is not that difficult. But if, let's say, like, I have a very small collection right now, I did not put out 100 products, right? I've put out 16 products and some of them are sold out and things like that. So within the collection that I've put, I also wanted to see what works, what doesn't work. But for an offline store, one, it is capital intensive. Two, you need to have a much larger collection. You can have less inventory depth. You can have
Hmm.
probably four pieces of each color, right? Whereas in
Yeah.
online, you're trying to increase the volumes, not so much of the designs per se. So
Hmm.
these are two very different things. But again, I know a lot of online brands have gone offline because offline offers something far more than online can. It offers the experience of walking into that store. It offers you the ability to try it on before you purchase it. It offers you a lot more than just buying a product in that sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
brands have moved to offline. Like, even if you look at Bliss Club and a lot of these online brands that started online, right? Bewkoof, Bliss Club, like a lot of these, they all have offline stores. Maybe not
Yeah.
as many as Peter England would have, but they
Yeah.
still have offline presence. I'm not at that stage where I can maintain an offline, like the rents are insane in any of the
Yeah.
cities that you can think of. And again, my demand is not, a lot of it is not from the cities anyways.
Yeah.
So at this point, it does not make sense. But after, so that's also the other thing. Scaling a business, I used to think it's a linear path, but no. So this is also something that somebody else, like another friend of mine, has told. So right now, with the offline business, let's say, like with the online business, there is a certain ceiling to which you can scale with the
Hmm.
current setup, right? You do that. And then you see, okay, now that it'll reach that plateau. And then you're like, but before it reaches that, you'll have to figure out, okay, let's say it is selling very good on website. Then you put it up on
Hmm.
marketplace. And you're like, okay, now this channel, because of these channels, my ceiling will increase here. Before I
Yeah.
reach here, then you go for online store, offline stores.
Yeah.
So you have to constantly keep increasing that ceiling of scalability. So
Yeah.
I think at, if, like, when Ira reaches that a scale where I would need offline, then obviously we'd start going for that. But it's a very long way.
That is no, I hope it happens soon,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
this sounds so amazing. Because my also another point is like tomorrow, assume you suddenly get an order of 1,000 saris,
yeah.
okay, and you are not able to fulfill it, God forbid,
Mhm.
right? So that is another challenge, right? Another challenge to your brand, that hey, your supply chain did not really support you when you needed it. So if you're
Yeah,
going to scale like demand, you should also be able to scale supply and operations along with it, right? So that really makes you a 360-degree entrepreneur, right? It's not just
yeah,
like inbound marketing, outbound marketing, and sales and all of that. No, no, no. You have to take care of everything. You have to
yeah,
ensure that the
absolutely.
brass tacks. You have to get in there and do it.
Yeah. So, like I said, like, things can go wrong in so many places you wouldn't even think. So I think that would be a good problem to have, where I have a lot of demand and I'm not able to
Yeah,
manage the
yeah,
supplier part of the scene. I would
yeah,
love to have these new problems, but we'll get there when we get there.
yeah.
But
That is definitely
it
there.
yeah, it may not be linear, but you will get a sense of, okay, the number of orders per day are increasing, so I need to hold more inventory than this. So that is also one of the reasons I picked saris, because it's a size free garment. So I don't have to hold
Hmm.
10 in small, 20 in large, 20 in medium, all of that. So I can have the same product, I can sell it to everybody.
Yeah, that reduces the complexity, which reminds me,
Yeah.
like when Jeff Bezos had to decide, like in Amazon, which were the first things he wanted to sell online were like books. Like he
Yeah.
was like, books were the easiest because they kind of came in the shapes and sizes. were more or less like, standard. So there
Yeah,
was very little complexity for it, and the storage also did not require too much of an effort. So yeah,
exactly.
and they were non-perishable and things like that. So yeah, that also goes into the thinking of an entrepreneur, right? So this is incredible, Teja. Like one of the last questions I want to ask you, honestly. Sorry, you were saying something.
So yeah, like in that way, sari is a much more simpler product. But we would want to get into blouses and pre-made, pre-draped saris and stuff, all of which would require far bigger inventory depth. But we'll get there.
Wow.
This
Yeah,
is
I
the
mean, I
starting
really
point
hope.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah. So no, honestly, I saw some sarees over there, and now I'm thinking, and you are right. Like I may need to buy one of them for my wife, because,
you
and my
should.
mom also, of course, goes without saying.
Yeah,
So because I'm not saying that because, oh, you are on the podcast or something. I really like some of the designs, and it makes me feel that okay, at least something is coming up from here, and this is like your vision, right? This is your vision, and definitely would love to support it. Not because अरे दोस्त है थोड़ा सा चंदा दे दो types वैसा. People have that mentality, they're like
yeah.
अरे पोल क्या चालू है तेरा channel है क्या, हाँ चल कुछ करते हैं. I'm like no, no, no. Please, only if you have something valuable, then only come on, otherwise there's no point, right? So I get where
So
you're coming from.
a, a few or good number of friends have actually purchased from Ayra. I think those were the initial purchases, right? So it is like I'm so grateful for everybody who's purchased, friend or non-friend. But I think the real demand is when some random stranger sitting in Tirupur buys your sari.
Yes, yes, because that at that point of
The
time you have made a sale. That
the
is real.
first
That is not fake.
yeah,
That is not biased.
I know. The first day I got the first sale that I got, which is not somebody I know, I was like, okay, this is big. This is happening. So it started. It just started. But yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you manage your work life balance? I mean, if it at all exists, does
I
an
don't.
entrepreneur really get to do that?
I don't. But I also take some time for myself to do other things, right? Like Sunday morning I go for slacklining, and that is one thing that I will do at least on alternate weekends, so that in that moment when I am on the line, my brain is not thinking what is happening with ads or what is happening with the website and things like that. So that break of that 1 2 hours is necessary, I think. So yeah, I take either Saturday first half or Sunday first half to do something else entirely other than this. But even then, like, your brain is still there at this point. Like, work life balance, like, what, it's not like I have somebody that needs my attention. Also, I just have a cat, and she's pretty good on her own as long as she's fed well. So it works well for me.
That's true. That's true. Like
Yeah,
you are like, you can't say, that, oh, I have work-life balance. I've heard entrepreneurs say, I don't even know what that means, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like
So
it's a
you
7 days a
need
week job at times.
you need to take some time off. So I think that time off is required, because after that slacklining session, once I come back, and then I'm like, you suddenly prioritize differently than what you were doing before. So then you'll see things in a different light. So that break is important, but to say I have work life balance would be a lie.
Oh, wow. That I know it's not sugar coated, which
Yeah.
really makes which makes it true, right? You're being authentic. That hey, it's not a bed of roses. It feels amazing. It is exhilarating. Someone from Tirupur is buying something from you, But it also is like, boss, like I'm working. Most of the
Yeah.
time, I'm working. I'm trying to figure things out.
Like,
There's a
even
lot of hard work that gets into it.
even if I'm not working, so I remember the first 3 to 4 months, I did not go beyond 5 kilometers radius, because I'm like, what if I get an order now? I always have to be home. Like, I have not, I think I took one trip to Goa for like 3 or 4 days. I've not traveled in a whole year till now, except for that one trip. So you have to be there, because not because it's not even because I didn't want to go, because you have to be present and you have to be there. So you're mentally occupied even if you're doing something else.
Yeah, there's yeah, that's true. That's true. That's incredible. People don't realize that you're in always on mode. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're an employee, it's like okay, it's like Saturday, Sundays off, or at least Saturday half day off or something of that sort. But there is no off when you're an entrepreneur, right? So that's incredible. So Teja, like last question on this one at least. Uh, you did your MBA from FMS Delhi, right? You graduated in
Hmm.
2017. In all these 7.5, 8 years almost since that happened, do you think it was worth it for you to do your MBA? Because my channel for some reason has a lot of people who think everything is about an MBA, which is it's not. But you are an MBA. You tell me, like, did it help you? How did it change your life and things like that?
Okay, so basically the 2 years you spend in college, there's two things that happen. One is the concepts you learn. Okay. The second part is you grow as a person, right? I think the person that you met when we first met at the job, like at Tech Mahindra, right, is very different from the person I am today. So the same way, in those 2 years, you change a lot. I think your mindset changes. Like you start looking at things from a business perspective. I remember this was 2018, I think, or 2019. I went to a trip to Gokarna. I was just talking to somebody in the hostel that I was staying at. And I was like, yeah, I think this business makes XYZ margins and something I was telling. And then this person is a volunteer at the hostel. And he was like, yeah, you are very close. I'm like, yeah. So the way you look at the world entirely changes, right? That mindset change was far more important than the concepts we have learned. Again, theory is one thing, but we all know putting it in real life is
Practice.
very different scenario, because the challenges that you face is like somebody is not responding to your email. What do? You have done everything you need to do, but person X is not responding to your email. That is your problem. MBA will not teach you that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that you need to figure out. So, like again, theory and practicals are very different. But as a mindset change, or the way you look at the world, I think is far more, like, has helped me. But I think again, I have changed way more after my MBA as well.
Okay.
So it's constant. It's sort of constantly growing, right? Like even in the last year, I have never done D2C before. The only relation to apparel that I have is like my aunt and uncles used to do weaving, like into handloom stuff, right? They used to weave saris when I was a child.
Yeah.
And then it eventually went away because obviously power looms came into the picture. And the second experience that I have with clothing is basically I interned in Benetton for a couple of months. But beyond that, I have nothing to do with the industry or anything, but I'm like, I'll figure out. That confidence that, ठीक I may not know everything, but I'll figure out is something that has helped immensely.
Yeah, that is incredible, and that really separates you from the rest, Teja. Honestly, this is incredible. Any last statements you want to make? Anything you think people usually they don't discuss, but you want people to talk about? Is there anything in general? It could be
So
anything not related to Ira, but anything in life that you want to talk
I think, like, with respect to starting a business, right? A lot of people say to me, hey, you're very brave, or, this, a lot of things, right? But what people don't understand is that it the timing was far more important. One, I had my savings. Two, I had enough experience, and which gives me the confidence that I can try out new things, I can figure it out. And three, I was in that stage in my life where I can take a risk. But if you have a family who is dependent on you, you can't do that. So there are a
about?
lot of these other factors that you don't necessarily see as very sexy factors to start a business. A lot of these things, variables affect this decision making. So I don't think there's a right time to do it. I don't think there's a right way to do it. I think you can talk to people and learn what they have done and where they have failed and figure out your own mistakes. That's it. So many things will
Wow.
have to
So
fall
it's
in
it's
place.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's about just do it and get shit done. That
That's
those are the two things that you're like, hey,
yeah.
keeping it very simple, just do it, get shit done, ज़्यादा सोचना नहीं है,
That's what it
and
is.
things will work out. Things will work out is what it is. Lots of hard work, which I'm not at all surprised about knowing you. I'm so honestly, Teja, like really proud of all the work that you have done so far. Ayra is fantastic, and in whichever form you want to keep it, right, in the future, like because
Mhm.
I know people who have kept their businesses as side projects. I know people who went full time with it. I know
Yeah.
some people who even sold them, sold their businesses. So you can do
Mhm.
anything with it, but just starting out, I personally have a lot of respect for people who start out. So really, really proud of you and everything you've done so far. All the best. And I would request everyone who's watching, right, to, if nothing else, at least check out the fantastic website that Teja has created. Link in the description. I'll definitely do that. Usually, I'm very lazy with links in the description, but thank you so much, Teja, for being part of this episode of
Yes.
Pol Ke Bol. Really happy.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem. No problem. Thank you, Teja. See ya. Bye.
Bye.